A Treatise of Satan's Temptations. By Richard Gilpin. A Discourse of the Malice, Power, Cruelty and Diligence of Satan. Third part of Chapter 7. Of Satan's diligence in several instances. Others also have been lately hammering out the same apprehension concerning angels, and profess themselves delivered from it, with great difficulty, differing only in this from some of the heathens before mentioned, that what those ascribe to the puissance of the stars' natural powers, or to weakness of senses and corrupt humors, they, by the advantage of the general notions of Scripture, have ascribed to God, putting forth His power upon the minds and fancies of men, or working by the humors of the body. Upon this foundation, they will easily make bold with devils, to deny, if not their being, yet their temptations, imagining that we may possibly do Him wrong, in fathering upon Him these solicitations and provocations to sin, which we by experience find to be working and acting upon our minds. Thinking that our own fancies or imaginations may be the only devils that vex us. And this they more readily hearken to, from the nature of dreams and visions, which happen to men in an ordinary natural way, where our fancies play with us, as if they were distinct from us, as also from this consideration, that the lunatic, epileptic, and frenzical persons, are in Scripture called demoniacs, as Matthew 17:15, with Luke 9, where the person is called lunatic, and yet said to be taken and vexed by a spirit. So also John 10:20, he hath a devil, and is mad. But these reasonings can do little with an intelligent, considering man, to make him deny what he so really feels, and is so often forewarned of in Scripture. For suppose these were called demoniacs by the vulgar, it doth not compel us to believe they were so. Men are apt to ascribe natural diseases to Satan, and Christ did not concern Himself to cure their misapprehensions, while He cured their diseases. This some suggest as a reason that may answer many cases, though indeed, it cannot answer that of Matthew 17, because, verse 18, it is said expressly that Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, which would not have been proper to have been spoken on the account of Christ by the evangelist, to express the cure of a natural disease, for so would he unavoidably have been rendered guilty of the same mistake with the vulgar. But if we should grant that divers mentioned under the name of demoniacs, were men disturbed with melancholy, or the falling sickness, all were not so. For those in Matthew 8:31, besought Christ, after their ejection, to have liberty to go into the herd of swine, that if Mr. Mead intended to assert that all demoniacs were no other than madmen and lunatics, I question not but he was mistaken, and by his reason, not only must madmen and lunatic persons pass for demoniacs, but all diseases whatsoever, for the blind and dumb were called also demoniacs, Matthew 9:32, and 12:22. But the matter seems to be this, that where men were afflicted with such distempers, Satan took the advantage of them, and acted the possessed accordingly, as he frequently takes the advantage of a melancholy indisposition, and works great terrors and affrightments by it, as in Saul. Or at least that, where he possessed, he counterfeited the fits and furies of those natural distempers, and acted some like madmen, and others he made dumb and deaf, which seems to have been the case of those in Matthew 9 and 12, where the deafness and dumbness did depend upon the possession, and was cured with it. Others were made to fall on a sudden into fire or water, as those that are epileptic, and therefore might such be called both lunatic or epileptic, and also possessed with a devil. As to that reason which some fetch from dreams, it is rather a dream than a reason against the being of devils, seeing the effects of these infernal spirits are far otherwise, than the utmost of what can be imagined, to be acted upon the stage of imaginations, so that the real and permanent being of devils may be easily proved. 1. First, from those real acts noted to be done by angels and devils. The angels that appeared to Lot were seen and entertained in the family, seen and observed by the Sodomites. Those that appeared to Abraham were more than fancied appearances, in that they ate and drank with him. The devil conveyed Christ from place to place. This could not be a fancy or imagination. Their begging leave to go into the swine shows them real existences. 2. Secondly, from the real effects done by them. We have undoubted testimonies of men really hurt and tormented by Satan. Of some really snatched away, and carried a great distance from their dwellings. Of others possessed, in whom the devil really speaks audible voices and strange languages, gives notice of things past, and sometime of things to come. The oracles of the heathen, which however they were for the most part false or delusory, yet, in that they were responses from images and idols, were more than phantasms. 3. Thirdly, from what the Scripture speaks everywhere of them. Of their malice and cruelty, that devils are murderers from the beginning. Their daily waiting how they may devour, their arts, wiles, and stratagems, their names and appellations, when styled principalities, powers, spiritual wickednesses, the prince of the power of the air, and a great many more to that purpose, show that, without apparent folly and dotage, we cannot interpret these of motions only upon the minds and fancies of men. Besides, the Scripture speaks of the offices of good angels, as their standing continually before the throne, their beholding the face of God, their accompanying Christ at his second coming, their gathering the elect from the four winds, etc. In Daniel 7:10, which cannot be understood of anything else, but real and permanent beings. And this is also an evidence that devils are, seeing the Scripture mentions their fall and their punishment. Fourthly, seeing also the Scripture condemned the opinion of the Sadducees, the contrary of that opinion must be true. And expressly in Acts 12:9, that which was done by an angel, is opposed to what might be visional or imaginary. Fifthly, the reality of devils and their malignity hath been the opinion of heathens. For there is nothing more common among them than the belief of inferior deities, which they call delta iota mu omicron nu epsilon sigma or delta alpha iota mu nu iota alpha, that is, devils. And notwithstanding that they suppose these to be mediators to the supreme gods, yet they learn to distinguish them into good and evil. The Platonists thought that the souls of tyrants after death became lemurs and larvae, that is, hurtful devils. And at last the name devil became of so bad a signification, that to say, "Thou hast a devil," was reproach and not praise. But what these groped at in the dark, the Scripture doth fully determine, using the word devil, only for a malignant spirit. Thanks.